So here's a hard truth. When you start setting healthy boundaries, they are likely going to bring out the emotional immaturity of the people that you are setting those healthy boundaries with. Most often, this happens most significantly with family, with our parents and our siblings. And that's often because they are the ones who are being most impacted by our newfound boundaries. So today we're going to talk about why this is, some things that they might do or say to try and pull you back in to get you to stop setting your boundaries, why you might feel the pressure to just give up on the whole thing, and what you can do about it. So stay tuned. This is a really real issue that comes up for a lot of us, and I think you're going to get a lot of really helpful things from this video today. If you are new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. If you are new, please do introduce yourself in the comment section below. And if you're back again, I am so glad to have you here. Either way, my name is Kristina, and I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a master coach, and the creator of the Breakthrough Coaching Program. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help heart-centered go-getter men and women break through worry, anxiety, and self-doubt so that they can get out of their heads, get into their lives, and love themselves and their lives more. So if you have been following me for a while, you know that I talk a lot about boundaries on here because most of us don't even realize how essential healthy boundaries are for our health, for our happiness, for our confidence, for our relationship with ourselves, just for our overall well-being in life. Often, a lot of our problems are created because we don't have healthy boundaries, especially if you are a more empathic person, if you are a highly sensitive person, if you are a generous person, if you are a caring person, if you are a giving person, if you are a high achiever, if you're an overachiever. All of these things, if you are any of those or all of them, then healthy boundaries are essential. But the shadow side of starting to set healthy boundaries is that often the people around you will not like it. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about why you get pushback when you start to set healthy boundaries. And more specifically, it often happens the most, like I said, with family, because they've known you to be a certain way for the longest time. And so if you can imagine that every family has its sort of way of being, it's functional dysfunction. And it's this system that works in this specific way, whether healthy, helpful or not, it's just the way that it works because it's the way that it's always worked. And so now all of a sudden, you've decided that you don't really want to do that anymore. You don't want to be in the dysfunction anymore. You want to do something different. And so you pull yourself out of that kind of machine, that system that's been working in this certain way. And you might be thinking, I'm not doing anything to them. I'm doing this for me. And I'm taking care of myself. Why are they getting so worked up about it? Well, it's because you have messed with the system. You have pulled out of a piece out of that system, and now the system has just gone totally haywire because there is a piece missing. And the system's almost coming crumbling down. It's almost imploding in on itself because something has changed. And the system, the family, I'm talking about your family here, they don't like that. It's uncomfortable for them. As human beings, we generally have a hard time with change, let alone change that is imposed by something or someone else. And you have imposed change that they didn't ask for, that they don't necessarily want. And so it's thrown that system into chaos. It might also be that the system doesn't like the change because your family might be feeling like you are pulling away. As you start to set boundaries, they might be feeling like this person's pulling away, they're doing things differently, we're losing them, we don't know what to do, we don't know what's happening, we don't know what this is going to look like. And so the system is freaking out. This isn't even necessarily conscious for them. I'm not saying that they're sitting down and thinking about I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now with so-and-so's new boundaries. They just know that something is different and they don't like it. The system does not like it. And so the system, just in general, wants to bring itself back to equilibrium. It wants to bring things back to the ways it always was. So that system is going to fight hard to get you to come back in so that things can go back to the way they were before, when the system knew what to do and how to be functional in its dysfunction. So, how do you get your family to understand your boundaries? How do you get them on board with all of this? And the hard truth is, you can't. At least not at first. If one of the prerequisites for you to allow yourself to be able to set your healthy boundaries is that everyone around you has to be okay with them, then it is going to be a losing battle for you. Because like I said, this is new for them. They don't know what to do. They don't know what is happening. And so they are protesting. Whether conscious or not, they are protesting. They are not going to like it. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, because that can really play in on us. That whole thing, that whole feeling of, if the people around me don't like what I'm doing, then I must be doing something wrong. But my friend, that is not true. That is not true. The system is just trying to pull you back into the dysfunction. And they're going to say specific things. And I'm going to go over the specific things they're going to say to you to try and coerce you, to try and pull you back in to the system. And I broke them down into 3 categories, and I'm going to give you some examples. You can also crowdsource. You can just let us know in the comment section below what some things people have said to you when you've tried to start setting boundaries, and what they've said to you to try and pull you back in, and to try to get you to change your mind and to just sort of do away with this whole boundaries thing. So the first category is criticism. These are critical statements that they might say to you. Something like, oh, that's just ridiculous. Or, no, that's not how we do things around here. Or, what's wrong with you? Or maybe it's something like, you are so selfish. Or, why are you being so difficult? Why are you trying to mess things up? Let me know in the comment section below. Has anyone ever said something like that to you when you've decided to start setting healthy boundaries and start listening to yourself and speaking up for yourself and doing things differently? Has anyone in your family ever said something like that? Or maybe it's been more on the realm of the guilt category. So maybe they've said something like, oh, I thought you loved me, or I thought you loved us. Or they said something like, well, I guess I failed you as a parent. If you say anything like, I don't like that, please don't do that, that's not okay with me. I guess I failed you as a parent. I guess I'm a terrible parent. I guess I can't do anything right. Or maybe it's something like, if you say no, they say something like, but I do so much for you. Or I never do that to you. Or maybe it's something like, if I was that selfish, how would anything get done? Or on the same vein, what do you think would happen if the rest of us were that selfish? So that's our guilt category. Have any of those ever come up for you when you've tried to set a boundary, or you have set a boundary and this has been the response to it? The next category is the ridicule category. And this might be just point blank making fun of you. Oh, you think you're better than us now? Oh, you think you're holier than thou, sitting up there on your pedestal and just like setting your boundaries and saying yes, saying no to whatever you want, and not thinking that you have to do anything, that you just get to do whatever you want whenever you want. Or it's just as simple as, not speaking from experience at all, but oh, there goes Julia setting her boundaries again. That actually came out of the mouth of one of my family members when I first started doing this work several years ago. So it's not easy. You are going to be tempted to throw in the towel and just say, this is too hard. I guess I'm a bad person. I guess they're right? We get pulled back into those roles in our families where we start to make ourselves small again and put ourselves under that authority and start to think that they are right because they don't like it. We become those children again, instead of standing up and saying, you know what, like, I am an adult now. I am my own adult with my own life and my own choices and my own wants, needs, and preferences. And it is up to me to connect with those and to communicate those. As a responsible, emotionally mature adult, that is my job. Someone else's emotional immature response to that is their responsibility. That is up to them. So again, just know that they are unconsciously or maybe somewhat consciously, but likely more unconsciously, just trying to get you to change your mind and come back into the system, to do away with these boundaries and just come back to the way you were before so that things can be the way they were before, and they don't have to deal with the fear or anxiety that comes from change, from the unknown, how things are going to be, what's going to happen, what they can expect, how you are going to be. They don't have to deal with all of that if things just go back to the status quo. And if you can think a little bit, like setting boundaries is like parenting a toddler. I'm not calling your family that your families are all toddlers, but it's to go with this whole behavior modification principle, that when you start setting boundaries with a toddler or with a child, so let's say you're in line at the grocery store, and every time you've gone to the grocery store, you've bought them a candy when you've been waiting in line, and then all of a sudden you just decided you want to cut back on sugar, you don't want your kids to be having so much sugar, you don't think this is a good idea. You've noticed that every time you leave the grocery store and they're all sugared up, they start acting crazy and fighting and nah. And so you're like, nope, we're not going to have any more candy at the grocery store. And so the first time you do it, the first time you're in line and your child goes, it's just back to the way things always they have and said, can I have a candy? And you say no, they're going to freak out a little bit. And they're going to push and they're going to say, no, I want a candy. Mom, get me a candy. Or Dad, get me a candy. And you're going to say, no, we're not having candy. And then they're going to start to get ramped up, and they might even start having a full-blown tantrum, freaking out and flipping out because you have changed things. You have changed the expectation. Now, it doesn't mean that not buying your child candy is doing something wrong. Chances are it's probably doing something good for them. If it's impacting their mood and their well-being and the amount of cavities in their teeth, you are doing something good for them. But at the moment, they don't like it because this is change, because this is something that has messed with their expectation. It's just their expectation. If you had never bought your child candy and line up at the grocery store, they wouldn't expect it. They wouldn't freak out when you didn't give it because you never had. So knowing that your family, and just when people start to protest change, it's just because they are freaking out because of that change. They want things to go back. They want the expectation that they've always had to be fulfilled. And so what happens often is when there is this protest, when there are these metaphorical or maybe even sometimes literal tantrums that happen with the people around us when we're setting boundaries, is that we give in. Because we think we're being bad people, just like the parent who gives in to the child having the tantrum because the parent doesn't want to be judged by other people seeing their screaming child, or the parent starts to feel like a bad parent because their child's so upset, even though that they're not actually doing something wrong. The child's just freaking out and being a little bit of a brat about the whole thing. And so knowing that if you give in when the tantrum happens, then that is just reinforcing the unhelpful behavior. What you are saying is my boundaries, they're not firm. They're not clear. I don't actually mean them. So I'm going to set them, but then you can kind of say what you say and lay the guilt trips and be critical and be a jerk to me. And I'm going to buckle under that pressure and I'm going to give in. So that makes it even worse. And it just makes it mean that next time you set a boundary, they're just going to do the same thing until you cave in. And they might push harder and harder and harder because they know that likely if they push hard enough, you're going to cave in. So holding firm, my friend, holding firm to those boundaries, knowing there's going to be pushback. The first time, the second time, the third time, maybe the 10th time, there's still going to be pushback. But eventually, they're going to understand that you are not messing around. That this isn't just something you're just trying for now. That this is your resolve. That this is how you've decided you're going to live your life. That you are going to be in charge of your own choices. That you are going to be in charge of your own mind, your own energy, your own resources, your own life. They will either get on board or they will walk away. It's true. Some people will not be able to handle you with boundaries. It will bring up too much stuff in them, or they will feel like if this person can't be and do and act and say and give what I want, when I want, how I want, then I'm no longer interested in being in a relationship. And if that is the truth, as painful as it is, especially with family, then again, It is like saying that they only value you for your yes. And if that's the case, then what kind of relationship is that? Chances are most people will get on board. They will, or at least they will accept Julia and her boundaries. They will see that there's no alternative, just this is the way that she is now. These are the choices and the way that she is choosing to live now, and they will adapt and adjust. And I'm going to tell you, my clients and students who have taken my boundaries courses, who have gone deep into this work, who have made these changes and made these transformations, they'll tell you, yeah, at first it brings up discomfort. It brings up discomfort internally because we're changing the way we do things, and that opens up its own can of worms. But then the backlash from the people around, that brings up stuff too. But every single one of them who has stuck with it, who has not given in to the tantrums, they say, this has changed my life. I feel freer. I feel fuller. I feel happier. I feel more in charge of my mind and my emotions and my life. It is completely worth the work. So stay with it, my friend. It's hard at first, but the benefit and the outcome is completely worth it. And I'll give you a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of more around my own family, my own journey with setting boundaries. And now, yes, I absolutely got the backlash, got the comments, got the pushback for them, but I stuck with it and I stood firm in that. And now it's funny because I see my own family, they've seen the changes in me since I've been doing this work. And a few people in my family have actually started realizing that a lot of their struggles were being caused because they didn't have healthy boundaries. And so they've started setting their boundaries, and they've started standing up and speaking up and connecting with themselves and living in alignment on the outside with what's going on the inside. And they are feeling so much happier and so much stronger and so much more empowered and so much freer themselves. And I've had conversations, especially with my siblings, around this. And actually, I've seen my parents do it as well. I've seen my mom be setting healthier boundaries, and I've seen her feeling happier and freer. And I've seen my siblings setting healthier boundaries, and I've seen them feeling better. And I've also seen, to be honest with you, like they have been respecting my boundaries so much more. So let them adapt and adjust. Stay strong in what you're doing. Let them adapt and adjust to the change. It's not easy for them. It's not easy for you, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It actually means that it's right. So like I said, if developing and establishing and knowing where your boundaries are and how to set them and what to do and all this stuff is coming up, if that's something that you do want to do more of a deep dive into, I have a boundaries course, an online course that you are going to love and get so much out of. It is one of my most popular courses to date. And so I'm going to put the link to that in the description below. If this is work that you want to do more around, you want to get more support and more information and more tools and resources to be able to do this, to be able to stand up and stand strong and hold firm in your healthy boundaries so you can get everything that's waiting for you on the other side. Again, I'll put the link below. Thank you so much for being here. Good for you for being willing to set healthier boundaries. I hope now you feel more equipped, for those of you who are like ready and maybe you've tried it before and you've gotten that pushback and it's made you kind of back down, and now you're like, okay, now I feel so much more empowered and I'm ready to do this. Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know how that journey's going. Let me know where you're at. Let me know if you are feeling more empowered now and more ready to do this. I would love to hear that, hear about where you're at, what's been going on. Do leave me those comments in the comment section below. Like the video, share it out. If there's anyone that needs to hear this in your life, please do share it with them. And let me know if you shared it so that I can thank you personally as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so we can stay connected. And until next time, happy, healthy boundary setting. You've got this, my friend. Take good care.